First, I want to thank you guys for coming out here tonight. And this is a personal testimony speech for my Luther Rice class that Professor Mason said we have to keep within 6 minutes. I told him he was nuts, saying that a preacher can only give a 30-minute sermon in 6 minutes, but he said it had to be 6 minutes, so here we go. There comes a time in a person's life when he has to make a choice. Either give up or give in. There's things in life that'll bring you down, and there's things in life that'll bring you up. There's times when you feel alive, and there's times when you wish you were dead. One thing that all these things have in common is a choice. And as I once heard a fellow pastor say, we're all just one choice away from a different life. A choice caused me to believe that I was saved at an early age. Another choice caused me to run from God as a young adult. A choice is what brought me to a point in my life when I was ready to pull the trigger and end it all. And a choice is what caused me to turn back to God and dedicate all that I am to Him. We are all just one choice away from a different life. By the time I was 38 years old, my life was going crazy. Now, although nobody's perfect, my wife has been a devout Christian her whole life, and she prayed for me constantly. However, it was during this time of my life that the strain on our marriage had gone too far. We separated and was considering divorce. During that time, I began feeling like a single man again. I could do what I want, hang out where I want. However, I hung out with the people I should have never hung out with, and I did things that I should never have done, and I went places that I should have never been. The same as Pastor Mark always says, sin will take you farther than you ever wanted to go, may keep you longer than you want to stay, and cost you much more than you ever wanted to pay. My life was in shambles. I was at a point of devastation. I'd lost my family, my job, most all my possessions. I had nowhere to go. And even if I did have somewhere to go, I didn't have any way to get there. I actually considered ending it all. Figured the world would be better off without me. But that soon was to change. And since I didn't really have anywhere else to go, I went home. Now, I always did love my wife. We just didn't agree on things like drugs and alcohol and church. But still, I loved her. So after coming home, I began doing my best to please her. I wanted to show my love to her, prove to her that I loved her. I tried so much that it actually got on her nerves. It annoyed her. And one night, I got a reminder of what was really happening, and it's a night I'll never forget. It was very late, around midnight or so. I was cleaning the house, again, trying to show her how much I loved her. And the entire time I was cleaning, I was blaming God for all the things that happened to me. I cried out, God, why'd you do this to me? Why are you causing all this stuff to happen to me? I was blaming Him for everything. And as I was cleaning the coffee table, a card fell on the floor. I picked the card up and looked at it. This was right after blaming God for everything. I looked at this card and realized it was a get well card from this church, from back when I was laying on my deathbed, and it was signed by nearly 100 people that loved me. At that moment, that very moment, an almost audible voice spoke to me very clearly and very plainly, and it said, my son, I didn't do these things to you, you did it to yourself. That moment I hit the floor on my knees. I couldn't stand. I felt God's presence for the first time. I begged Him for His forgiveness, and I didn't know what else to do, so I got up the next morning and went to church. Now, nobody really knew I was going to go to church or anything, but I had to go. I hadn't been there in 10 years or so, but this was between me and God. I didn't tell my wife about it. It had nothing to do with her. She wasn't even on my mind anymore. This was between me and Him. Now, during the invitation, I went forward. Just so happens Pastor Mark was preaching on a backsliding Christian that day, and the whole time was pointing directly at me. But I went down for the invitation, and I told him everything that I've told you all here, plus a lot more that I don't have time to get into. And I said, what do I do? He said, go home, make a list of all the sins that you've ever done, and then come back tonight and give those sins to God, and we'll pray over you. All right? That's what I did. I went home, and I wrote down about 5 pages worth of stuff. And I went through the house and I gathered together all the stuff that I had, all the illegal things, the drugs and the paraphernalia and things that were just illegal, immoral, or just plain wrong. Put them all in a box and brought them to church with me that night. And at the end of the service, I came down, I handed Mark my box. He said, throw it at the altar. I kneeled down, I got out my list, and I went through that list one by one by one. And Pastor Mark called all the men of the church to come down to pray over me. And I could hear the voices of about 10 men behind me praying. When I got done with that list, though, for the first time in my life, I felt clean. I felt good from the inside out, and nothing in this world could stop that, because for the first time I realized God loved me and I was a child of the King. Amen. Woo! Amen. I wish I had time to tell the entire story, but I don't. This testimony is one of the strongest and most moving sermons that I've ever given. Speech doesn't do it justice. I hope you all see the point of it, though. Because everything we do boils down to a choice. My friends, if a choice brought you into it, a choice can bring you out of it. Amen. It's up to you to make the choice that you feel is the right one. Now, although we make the choices for ourselves, we can't determine what the consequences of those choices are, but we do have to live with them. As Pastor Jamie Rabel always says, remember, you're just one choice away from a different life.